Boilermaker fans, welcome back to the channel. This is the Big Time Boiler. Wanted to come to you again today. We just recorded Cole and I a podcast last night, but wasn't really happy with the audio on that. I didn't realize that it was actually recording my voice from the webcam and not my microphone. So wasn't super happy with that. Fixed the audio. Plus, I kind of wanted to make a shorter video. I know, that was an hour-long preview. Try to keep this one maybe under 20 minutes, maybe do 15 minutes. So, some people don't have the attention span these days. But anyway, with that, I kind of wanted to do a segment on the kind of, the biggest questions going into this season for Purdue football, which there are a ton. But maybe we'll do, biggest questions on the offense and defensive side. Probably the biggest question for me is, how well is Hudson Card really going to play? Right now, the hype is very real for Hudson Card. The national media has gotten all over him recently to some extent. I mean, not nationwide, but, Big Ten Network's been tweeting stuff out about him. Dave Revson talked about him when they're at practice. He made that tweet basically being overly impressed with him. Ryan Walters has done nothing to temper expectations on Hudson Card. So to me, that's one of the biggest questions. Really, I mean, this whole entire team is full of questions now I think about it. So maybe it's better just to, again, do a real quick breakdown of the offense and the defense. Kind of what we did on the podcast yesterday, but I'm going to make this one a little bit quicker, more suffice, and again, kind of try to shorten the length of it so people can actually watch this perhaps all the way through. So let's talk about the offense. We just kind of touched on Hudson Card. He's quarterback number one. The backup is Bennett Meredith, who's just got arrested for DUI. Sounds like they're going to handle that internally. The other backup quarterback will be a true freshman, Ryan Brown, or a transfer from James Madison from a few years ago. He's escaping. His name's escaping me right now. Kyle Adams. Sorry, Kyle. Kyle Adams. So, if something happened to Hudson Card game one, who comes in? Probably Kyle Adams is my guess. But the key to the season is definitely going to keep, is for them to keep Hudson Card healthy as much as possible. Running back room, I think probably the least question on this team, perhaps, especially in the offensive side of the ball. Devin Wackaby is going to be a beast. The only question mark really there is, can he stay healthy for an entire year, and can he handle the full season workload? And what's his share of carries going to be when it comes to splitting carries with Tyrone Tracy, who's maybe going to be running back number 2, and Dylan Downing, running back number 3. And who's that fourth running back if somebody does get hurt? They have a bunch of freshman walk-ons. They have Christian Womack, who was a scholarship freshman. And then a guy that I'm very interested in, who might even see some time anyway, even if nobody gets hurt, would be Montrell Dean, who's like 6'3", 240 pounds, was an offense/defense recruit. They decided to keep him at running back for now. He might be, your power back. We'll see how much he gets used. But he was actually brought up by Ryan Walters once or twice in some post-game practice videos. That's your your running back room. Your wide receiver room, of course, has a ton of questions. We've pretty much covered this extensively so far, but a lot of questions, a lot of pieces here. But you got some talent. Your probably top couple guys are T.J. Sheffield, Deion Burks, Yassine, Elijah Cannon, Marshawn Rice. That's probably your top 5. I mean, Andrew Zwinski, put him in there as well. Your 6. Zion Steptoe is somebody that I actually forgot to talk about yesterday. He's actually been making some plays in practice, kind of like Dron Tibbs. But I think Steptoe actually might come out of the woodwork here and actually get quite a bit of playing time. But, yeah, then you got Dron Tibbs. It's probably, that's 7 or 8 receivers. It's probably – oh, and then, I'm sorry, one more person. I don't know if we mentioned him or not, but Jalen Dixon-Veal, who came in from Oregon State. He actually came in from JUCO, excuse me. He was committed to Oregon State, and Purdue was able to flip him after they lost out on Corey Gamage. Again, a lot of question marks here. The wide receiver room. Who can be the alpha receiver? Do we even need an alpha receiver? I guess we'll wait and see on that. Tight end room. pretty good tight end room here. The only question here really is, can Garrett Miller, excuse me, can Garrett Miller stay healthy? And not only can he stay healthy, but can he return to 100% pre-ACL injury that he suffered in the fall of last year during this time? If he can do all that and stay healthy and, get back to health, 100% health, I think he's going to have a big year. We talked about Ferry, very good backup tight end, and they got some young guys in Claire and Bieber that are pretty good prospects, and then the true freshman George, who I think will be a player for Purdue as well. Offensive line, a lot of questions here. I think, though, it's going to be a pretty strong unit when all is said and done. Gus Hartwick, you get him back probably in week. Well, I guess the one question, question number one here is, when is Gus Hartwick going to come back? Which game is, is it going to be game 2, 3, 4? Hopefully it's, game 2 or 3. And until then, it's either going to be Austin Johnson, who transferred in late from Colorado, was the starting center there last year, and then or Josh Kaltenberger, who took over for Gus Hartwick when he got hurt last year and started a couple games. But Josh got hurt, got rolled up on, I guess, in practice maybe a week or two ago, and sounds like, though, he might be back by week 1. The interior, I think, has a lot of pieces. Probably going to start with Preston Nichols at one guard spot, who's coming over from UNLV. Before UNLV, he was at maybe Charleston or one of those smaller schools out there out on the coast. That he was I think he might have been a 4-year starter, if not 4 or 3-year starter. So this is his 6th year of football. So he's rocking, ready to go. Pretty good player. The other guard spot's going to be probably Jalen Grant, who's transferring in from Bowling Green, a guy that did it all for Bowling Green. I think he's going to be a pretty good piece for us. And then kind of backing them up, you got a guy from Indiana Wesleyan, Ben Farrell, who actually got some looks by the NFL. Possibly could have been an NFL free agent as a rookie, but came to Purdue instead. He can actually move out the tackle, but probably will be guard. In case somebody gets hurt, though, I think he will be the, 4th option at tackle, probably behind Daniel Johnson. The other guard would be Luke Griffin, who followed Coach Johnson from Missouri. He was kind of another one of these utility guys last year from Missouri. I don't know if he started any games. He may have started 1 or 2. Was not a main starter, but a pretty good depth piece for them and played in quite a few games. And that's kind of the main interior guys that came over. So that's 4 solid pieces right there. I'm probably forgetting somebody. But on the outside, a former interior guy, Marcus Bowe, who's probably your best offensive lineman, is now at right tackle instead of right guard. And then on the left side, you got Muhammad Musa, who, again, another player just like Bowe, who's probably your 2nd or 3rd best offensive lineman, who Purdue expects big things out of. So, and then Daniel Johnson, who I talked about, he got hurt, I want to say, in like game 4 maybe, or maybe even 5 against Maryland. I think he tore his ACL, so he was out for the rest of the year. So getting him back to health would be good. He actually started over Eric Miller at one point. So he's definitely a nice piece to have. So, again, I think that's pretty much the questions on the offensive the offensive line and the offensive depth chart per se. So let's move to the defense. Defense will be coached by Kevin Kane, who's going to be calling the plays, with Ryan Walters kind of being the advisor role as well as head coach, obviously. So the questions here would be, how good is this Purdue defensive line going to be? And I'm not talking the front 5, which is probably, what this kind of system is, but the front center 3, which your nose tackle, defensive tackle, and then one of the end spots. So, how good can they be? Again, we talked about it yesterday. There's a lot of pieces here, a lot of good pieces, a lot of highly ranked former recruits. But how can they all mesh together? I think Cole Brevard is probably going to be one of the most improved players in the defense. I mean, he was pretty solid last year. I think he's going to be great. He's probably going to be your main nose tackle. Very, very big guy. And then when it comes to, the other D tackle on the other end, you got a couple of options there. You got Jeffrey Imba, who has a lot of talent. I mean, at the very least, he's going to rotate in quite a bit. DeMarje Lewis, who's very talented as well and played for Purdue quite a bit, who tore his ACL just like Garrett Miller around the same time. He's starting caliber. Langham, who came over from Vanderbilt, and before that Florida, who was a very highly ranked recruit who chose Florida over Alabama. Can he step in on one of those end spots? Isaiah Nichols, who's played quite a bit for Arkansas, was a starter last year. Maybe he will start. Good chance he starts. Prince Boyd Jr.'s got to come back from injury. Let me look at the depth chart so I make sure I'm not missing anybody on the defensive side. Big Mo from West Lafayette, he's probably going to get in there and play. Joseph Anderson, who's actually played with the ones quite a bit in fall camp, another former 4-star recruit. And then you got some guys like Kapaka, JP Dieter, Carlson, very big rookie, Jamarian Harkless, and Joe Strickland, formerly ranked. I think he's a sophomore now, but very highly ranked recruit. So a lot of question marks there. How is that all going to come together? That's probably one of the biggest question marks in the defense besides the cornerback position. But we'll go to the cornerbacks right now. Yeah, cornerbacks, big question. Will all the new players mesh together and be starting caliber Big Ten players? Marquise Wilson comes over from Penn State. This was a highly decorated recruit. Talking to Penn State, bloggers and stuff like that, he had a lot of potential. They wanted him on the field, so they actually switched him to offense. He was buried there behind some really good DBs. I don't know what he would have been in line to play this year had he stayed, as far as what spot on the depth chart he would have been. But all accounts, he's probably going to be our number one corner. Salim Turner Muhammad, who came from Stanford, is pretty much been hurt since the day he got here. So I'm not exactly sure, when he's going to be ready. He was probably going to be corner number 2, but now it seems like Markevius Brown's going to be that guy who came over from Ole Miss, who actually was starting in their spring game. Very talented player, has a couple of years of experience in the SEC. So it's going to be, I think, Wilson and Brown as your main 2 corners. Again, Brown, not to be confused with Jamari Brown, who left the team, who was the only holdover from the last regime in the cornerback spot. Another couple guys to mention, Botros Alessandro, a JC recruit who they like a lot, kind of an unheralded recruit, not ranked, very similar to that Illinois Witherspoon, maybe. Maybe we got our own Witherspoon here. But Braxton Myers, another guy, Derek Rogers Jr., and Zion Gunn, all freshmen. So that's the cornerback spot. Let's go outside linebackers, who are going to probably be your more kind of traditional defensive ends. Those guys, the questions here really aren't too many. I think this is the strongest unit on the team. I mean, you got the only question mark, who's going to play, who's going to start. I think that's going to be Nick Skorton. I don't know how to say his name yet, but formerly Nick Carraway. Kaiden Jenkins, they're probably your 2 outside starters. But then you got Sinor out there. You got Will Helt, who is impressing as a true freshman. Scotty Humpich, who played a little bit last year until he got hurt. And then Roman Petrie. So you got some really good players there. And then on inside, really the main question for inside linebackers, which I forgot yesterday, is, who's actually going to play? Right now it's O.C. Brothers, it seems like, at middle linebacker. And it seems like, the other question is how many of these guys are going to be on the field at the same time. And I think it's just going to be one spot. So it's going to be like O.C. Brothers, probably Clyde Washington and Yanni are going to back him up. Sound like Yanni actually ran with the ones today. So that's encouraging to see. And then your safeties. Your safeties are, Kane, Sanusi Kane, Cam Allen at free safety, and then Dylan Thieneman, true freshman. I think the big question here is Thieneman going to start, and is Kane going to go over to that star kind of outside linebacker, inside linebacker role that kind of Jalen Graham played last year. So that covers the defense. Special teams, the big question here is, is Ben Freehill going to be able to kick the ball as good or even better than Mitchell Finneran last year? Mitch was pretty accurate inside 40 yards. He wasn't the greatest leg outside of 40 yards, but I think he actually left Purdue as like the all-time most accurate kicker. So not bad. So he's going to be hard to replace. And again, Ben Freehill has not kicked at least a field goal or an extra point in a real life football game in the college level, collegiate level. He has, get some water here real quick. He has, though, done a few kickoffs, so he's got some experience. But I know the coaching staff really likes him, and all accounts, he's looked really impressive in practices. So punting, the only question here is, is Jack Hansel going to improve again? I think he will. He had a much improved year last year, and I think there is no reason why he won't be improved again. Again, this is a guy that came over that had never played in a football game a couple of years ago. He was just trying to figure it out his freshman year. Figured it out last year, and I think this year he's going to be very outstanding. So that covers all three phases: offense, defense, and special teams. I guess the only other thing is, kick returner and punt returner. Who are those guys going to be? Probably Deion Burks at the kickoff spot. Maybe Tyrone Tracy as well. Burks and Tracy as your kick returners, and then punt returner probably Andrew Sawinski when he gets back from injury, which I guess he's been injured here lately. And then I guess the last thing is how healthy will this team be able to stay? Jamal Adrian towards ACL, as we discussed, he's obviously going to be out for the season. We talked about Josh Kaltenberger. We talked about Gus Hartwick. Those are really, and then Salim Turner Muhammad. But those injuries I mentioned outside of Adrian, besides maybe Gus, sound like are maybe one game at most injuries. There's been a couple other guys banged up that I think they're being more cautious on, that aren't going to play until the game week. Maybe get them ready next week. But yeah, so that's kind of the main questions. Then obviously the biggest question of all is how will Ryan Walters do as a head coach for Purdue football? As far as so far he's done great, but how will he be as a game day coach? I think that's a big question I have too. And then with this schedule, we kind of already broke it down. I got 7-5. I think though Purdue, honestly, if all things click, they could win 8 games. Heck, they could win 9 games. Who knows? Or things also could go off the rails if they have a big injury like Hudson Card goes out. Then pretty much throw everything I'm saying away, and they might be able to win some games, but it might be a struggle. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Purdue staying healthy and being able to compete. So, yeah, like I said, I wanted to kind of come on here, do a shorter video, kind of just go over some of the biggest question marks I have on this team. At the same time, kind of doing again the depth chart. I think this overall Purdue team, this last minute or so, I'll just talk about what I think about overall about this team. I think this team, again, I was on a podcast earlier tonight, Big Ten Ted, check them out. I made this reference, and I think I'll keep using it. There's a lot of good puzzle pieces on this team, and I think we have all the pieces to complete the puzzle. The question is, though, can we actually complete it? Can we put the pieces in the right spots to make the image, the Boilermaker special? We'll call it. Can Ryan Walters and crew put the right guys in the right spots to put it and put people in winning positions? Excuse me. I also kind of referenced us to Colorado Light because, we had 40 people leave the program. Depth was a big issue with this team. If Jeff Brom had stayed, he was going to have to do something similar. He was going to have to bring in 20 guys via the transfer portal because his depth was not very good. Recruiting kind of fell off here lately. So, which thankfully, again, Ryan Walters seems to have fixed that problem. So, again, we're about 18 minutes. My kind of last thought, I'm really excited about week 1. This Fresno State game, I can't wait to see it. I just really want to see how this team looks. Of course, I'll be on vacation in Cape Cod, so I hope I'll be able to watch a little bit of it. But I will definitely watch the full game in its entirety at some point, if not live right away. But, yeah, with that, I think we'll wrap it up. Again, excited for the first game. I think after that first game, it's going to tell us, how good this Purdue team can be. So with that, boiler up. God bless. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully this one sounded a little bit better. Thanks.